edit this beginning part out. Well, great. It was very exciting to see your work actually come into the building. It's amazing. And like I said, I think, the two-dimensional pictures just don't do it justice, unfortunately. It's like, wow, the textures are just fantastic when you see them in person.
Well, thank you so much. It always is a worry when we transport any of that. I now have this huge stack of blankets like the Princess and the Pea. They're stacked up in my living room right now with pillows so that when it's time to bring the pieces back, we'll be ready. But, really have to pack it carefully.
Right. All right. So let's go ahead. We'll begin, and we'll just, we'll start with your name and the medium that you use.
Okay, so just go ahead.
Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Marjorie Hoffman. I live in Ithaca, New York, since 1991. And the work in my exhibit is mosaics. I guess we call them contemporary. They're certainly not traditional mosaics. They use a lot of materials that are not traditional.
Great. Can you tell us a little bit about your education and background?
Sure. Well, I was born in New York City. I grew up there. My mother was an artist and an art teacher, and I pretty much followed in her footsteps. I attended the High School of Music and Art in Manhattan. And then I did undergraduate work at Cooper Union as an art student. So really, it's been a lifelong pursuit of art in different forms. I've done a lot of woodworking. I've tried my hand in photography and a lot of other things. And then I worked as an art teacher for a good number of years, I think 17 or 18 years, here in Ithaca. And in 2014, I was asked to create a wall of acknowledgement for a campaign that the school had done. And that's the first time that I began working in mosaics. And that was the start of this. I then, soon after that, retired from teaching and just continued exploring what this form of art, would allow me to do.
Fantastic. Sometimes luck comes our way and just shows us what we're meant to do, right?
Right. Yeah, it really combines a lot of my interests. I like to sculpt, like to work in clay and in wood. And so that allows me to use both of those, because a lot of the pieces have handmade clay parts. And some of my other mosaics have hand-carved pieces in them.
Great. Can you tell us what or who inspired you to pursue a career in art or to become an artist?
Right. Well, I guess I already mentioned my mother. She definitely, her name was B.B. Hoffman, and she was a ceramicist. And, I watched her. She went back to school after her children were born and became an art teacher. I watched her do her painting thesis for her master's. So I would say that, she was primarily my inspiration.
Great. So for the show that you have here at 171, can you tell us a little bit about the inspiration, either for the show in whole or a couple of the pieces that you have on display?
Well, I think it was actually your gallery director, Beth Landon, who thought of the connection of Earth Day and celebrating the earth with my pieces, I have thought of my mosaics as a way to celebrate our lives, which began with the wall of acknowledgement at this school, and then with our natural world. So all of the pieces that are in the exhibit are of our natural surroundings, some of them close by. One in particular, the skunk cabbage by the stream, that's a triptych, which is a more recent piece. That one, really, you could just find skunk cabbage growing right now in the wooded areas of Ithaca, especially in wet places. It's a very beautiful plant, even though some people complain about what it smells like. But so anyhow, that piece allowed me to sculpt the plant out of clay. It allowed me to use some found wood to include, and then the challenge of creating a stream with stained glass pieces also was a great challenge. So that piece in particular, is one that I'm quite proud of. And then there's the landscape of the Southwest. My husband and I took a cross-country trip a couple springs ago, and we visited a lot of, beautiful national parks and all this great landscape. And I collected stones as I traveled, either right off the roadside, just broken pieces of red stone, or at rock shops, which there are plenty of in the Southwest. So that piece also is one where I have collected my memories, and then I have artifacts from the trip. So those are two examples. I guess there's one last one that I wrote down to mention. It's called Horsetail. The horsetail is a very primitive plant. It can be bothersome. It can be a weed growing in your flower bed, and it's hard to get rid of. But it is an exceptionally interesting plant. And so my challenge there was to try out of clay to make a plant. I don't know how successful I was, but I love the art piece, and then to combine it in a mosaic.
I was going to say that's, I think, one of my favorite pieces that you brought in was the horsetail piece. I just love the spiking up of the green. It's just a lovely piece.
Right.
So, as an artist and somebody who works for an arts organization myself, and I believe that art is very important and essential to our lives, but sometimes it's hard to get a layperson to understand the importance. So, I'm just curious, with your mother who really appreciated art, and then your education, why do you believe art is important to our society?
Right. That's a great question. Especially when you're an art teacher in school, and you try and show people how important art really is to their lives, especially when you want to increase the length of time that you have with your students. Art really involves the whole person. It involves your mind, your cognition. It involves problem solving. It involves observation of detail. and it involves your heart, your emotions. And then, of course, it involves skills that have to do with your hands and, coordinating your thoughts to what you're trying to accomplish with your hands, or I guess on your computer these days also. So it is a holistic experience. And the more we have of that, the better we develop as humans, not just as children, but as adults also. We're connecting our thoughts, our emotions, and our physical bodies to a process. And I just think that it's an amazing process. It takes time to develop, even in a single piece. Might take several days to realize what's the next step on a piece, or how to problem solve an area that's difficult. You go away, sleep on it, come back. So it's a creative process, similar to that of a scientist who wakes up with a eureka moment or whatever. It's a wonderful, and of course, there are many other forms of art, and I'm including those in what I'm talking about.
Beautiful. So that is it for the prepared questions I had. Just so I'm going to leave here with any other thoughts or any other information you would like our viewers to be aware of that wasn't covered in those questions.
Well, I guess one thing is that there's always opportunity to learn a new skill at no matter what age. And so it wasn't until my retirement from teaching that I began to hone the skills needed to create these mosaics. And I think that that's very important for all of us. There are many examples of that among people we know and famous people and so forth, but it's possible to gain experience and skills as, no matter what age you are. So, and I think that drawing as a skill is especially important, and especially important for children as well. And they should be encouraged all the time to do that, and to continue doing it past the usual age when they're interested in drawing and into, their adolescence, because it's often just put aside and other things take its place, other interests. So that's one thing I have in mind. It's also been wonderful to share my work with friends and acquaintances in the community where I live in Ithaca. So I'm delighted that I'm broadening my exposure to Corning, to such a beautiful gallery space and art center that you have there at 171. Very, very impressed with the building, the people, the spaces, and the programs. They seem to be terrific. So I'm delighted to participate.
Well, great. Well, thank you very much, Marjorie. Give me 1 second. I will end this.